But they did shoot him in the back 7 times.
Because he was about to drive off with abducted children. That's a really important
He's not
part.
a good guy. He's not a good guy.
He's the worst guy. Yeah, but I'm...
It's just insane the amount of accountability they expect with Kyle Rittenhouse. But when it's Jacob Blake or...
Zero, yeah.
Yeah, zero accountability.
From all the data I've seen, the more guns in an area, usually the more f***ed up shit is going to be always. Like,
okay, great.
That's just statistically. But that's up against our Second Amendment rights as Americans, right? I would almost always compel people to, but I mean, I'm also wealthy. I would compel people to leave your property if you want. When I was poor in college, I probably would have killed somebody if they tried to steal my shit, if I had the opportunity to see it, because that's your lifetime's worth of shit that you put into buying stuff that you have. So, you know, like if black people had the ability to defend themselves during the Tulsa race riots, during the Black Wall Street being burned down, for the Koreans that defended their communities, for the Black Panthers in California that felt the need to defend their communities with rifles. I mean, if minority communities or if any community wants to take up arms and defend their community, in the United States, you have the right to do that. And if I was going to come down on any side in a conflict there where people start getting killed, I would always come down on the rioters first. For Kenosha, the people that were primarily at fault were the people that were there after dark that were setting shit on fire. Those are the people who have the primary responsibility for everything that happened. As much as we talk about showing up to a riot with a gun and how irresponsible it is, Gross Skirts, the guy that got his bicep shut off, he showed up with a gun. He almost used it on Rittenhouse, right? So I mean, yeah.
Well, by the way, two things about that. Number one, he didn't. So apparently you could show restraint, even though he got shot.
Oh my God.
And number two, he shouldn't have showed up with a gun either. Here, look, my last thing on this is, I'll give you the most.
He didn't show restraint. He got his arm blown off. See, Cenk doesn't know any of this.
Yeah.
Cenk has no idea what he's talking about.
I mean, didn't he try to fire and the gun jammed or something?
Well, I think Rittenhouse got the jump on him. He started pointing at him, and then Rittenhouse blew his arm off.
No, so. I thought, I could have swore he tried to fire.
And the gun jam?
Oh, no, you're right. No, Kyle's gun jammed. You're right. Like, he points the gun at Gross Skirts. Gross Skirts puts his hands up.
Right.
And then when Kyle moves his gun away, then Gross Skirts aims it again at him.
Right. And then he gets the jump on and blows his arm off.
His arm off, right. Yeah.
Yes. No restraint shown.
Most extreme example. So you remember Charlottesville, of course, the Nazis chant, the Jews will not replace us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, would anybody begrudge 10, 20 Jewish guys going in there with weapons and going, no, you're not going to chant this stuff in our community? Well, I mean, that's like the guys that you could least begrudge. I mean, these guys are literal goddamn Nazis, and they're chanting against the Jews while carrying torches, right? But if those 10 or 20...
I thought they said juice will not replace us.
They said both.
Oh, okay.
Jewish guys asked me, I'd say, I love you, brothers and sisters, and I love your strength, and I love your attitude, but don't go. Because it's guaranteed that people are going to die if you go, okay? So, and some of them might be you, some of them might be the other guys, but I don't want anyone to die.
He's not framing this correctly, because literally when Kyle Rittenhouse was running away from Rosenbaum, they have video footage of the other side of where he was running, and they were destroying the car lot.
Right.
So, I mean, if Kyle Rittenhouse doesn't go, they burn down the car lot. There's like two forces at odds with one another here. So Cenk just is basically saying, fuck you, your car lot gets burned down.
Yeah.
Kyle Rittenhouse did save the car lot from getting burned down.
No, fuck you, Adam.
But to your point of...
Fuck me. Fuck you.
Like, me saying,
fuck you,
Republicans want violence
down, okay?
From time to time. Oh, that's crazy. No, they're just like us. No, there's polling. 28% of Republicans say that it's time for violence. So that's a giant number. And
it is, but I mean, for Charlottesville, as hateful as that riot was, they weren't destroying the city. I think that's a key component that, like, not to mention, and for Kenosha, that city was being destroyed off of misinformation reported about the Jacob Blake shooting. And there were videos of, like, people getting attacked, of car dealerships being set on fire. It just seems like there's remarkably little empathy for the people whose community, if you go to Kenosha today, if you go downtown, there's still shit that's boarded up that has never opened again as a result of those riots. And people are just fixated on the people that were, I mean, as shitty as it is, defending their community against who they perceived as outsiders that were coming just to destroy it. But
yeah, so look, I keep saying last thing because we're so out of time.
Sure. Yeah, sorry, yeah, go for it.
One more last thing. So to that point, Stephen, so some people say, hey, riots are the voice of the unheard. And I hear that, and that's a fair point. But by the way, you could maybe make that argument about January 6th, too. And so that's a different, very long conversation, okay? But that, to me, does not excuse going and setting a building on fire. No excuse. So I'm not excusing that 1%. Now, but if you think it was just because of, like, bad reporting on one case, I don't think you even think that, right? You know the context is...
Well, the Kenosha riots happen because of the Jacob Blake misreporting. What A to B, a direct line.
So you know the context of tons and tons of unarmed black guys being shot by cops in this country.
No, there are not tons and tons of unarmed black guys being shot by cops.
All right. Okay. So you don't agree with that. Okay, fine.
Well, how many do you think a year get shot? How many unarmed black guys are getting shot by cops?
Okay, Stephen. Okay, let me finish the point.
Okay.
Wrap up.
The number's like 12, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So if you look, I think that if you say to all black people in this country, you're all telling us you've been abused by cops, whether it's to the extreme of being shot or pulled over or arrested or something smaller. You've been abused. All of you, tens of millions of you, say that, and you've been saying it for 100 years straight, and then we turn around and go, we don't believe you. I think that's deeply offensive. I think it doesn't make sense. I think it's ridiculous. So that's
that's so pathetic. Right. How dare you tell a minority that they're wrong about something factually? That's deeply offensive. Oh my God.
Yeah, terrible.
Jesus.
They had a right to riot, right?
Yeah, that's so.
They were offended.
My God.
I didn't even see a lot of blacks in that Kenosha stuff anyway.
I know.
So.
But like, it's just like, who cares about what's actually true? You're just, Cenk over here with his standpoint epistemology. Like, well, if they say it. You're not allowed to question it, okay?
Yeah.
Context in which that riot happens, it doesn't excuse the riot. And by the way, the misreporting, it turns out he had a knife, but they did shoot him in the back 7 times.
Because he was about to drive off with abducted children. That's a really important part.
He's not a good guy. He's not a good guy.
He's the worst guy. Yeah, but I'm...
I love that response. It's like, so what, they need a knife? They shot him in the back 100 times. Yeah, but he was literally about to get into a car and drive off with abducted children. I'm not saying he's the best guy in the world, Destiny. But did he deserve to get shot just because he might have been kidnapping children? Does he deserve to get shot just for that?
It's just...
Yes, he does. Yes, totally. He does.
It's just insane the amount of accountability they expect with Kyle Rittenhouse. But when it's Jacob Blake or...
Zero,
zero accountability. Yeah. Jacob Blake, the guy with the skateboard, Anthony Huber, none of these people. Any accountability? Nah, they do whatever they want.
Yeah, no, great point. It's a great point. It really shows the whole tribalism moral foundations here. How there's all these rules that apply to the outgroup that don't apply to the in-group. The outgroup has to have, your perceived outgroup has to have like the strictest, and they must be the most responsible, amazing person ever. But if it's your in-group or the minority group that you kind of view apparently doesn't have any responsibility for its actions,
right?
Because they're against some oppressive, police state or something. Suddenly they have no personal responsibility whatsoever. In the
no
situation.
Agency.
Yeah, no agency, right. It's just preposterous.
I'm saying that, like,
but he was about doesn't mean you shoot him in the back. There's other solutions other than...
They already tased him twice.
Shoot a guy in the back.
They didn't just show up. They were wrestling with outside the house. They tried to wrestle on the ground multiple times. They tased the guy twice.
Rittenhouse for showing up. Okay, so look, I think that this whole thing, the second...
Wait a minute. I don't think that's accurate.
Yeah, he's not accurate.
But they did shoot him in the back 7 times.
Because he was about to drive off with abducted children. That's a really important part.
He's not a good guy. He's not a good guy.
He's the worst guy. Yeah, but I'm saying that, like,
he was about to... doesn't mean you shoot him in the back. There's other solutions other than...
They already tased him twice.
Shoot a guy in the back.
They didn't just show up. They were wrestling with outside the house. They tried to wrestle on the ground multiple times. They tased the guy twice.
Rittenhouse for showing up. Okay, so...
No, no, what? They were, no, well, I'm sorry. That's bullshit. They were 100% talking about Jacob Blake. They're
Yeah.
not talking about
He did a
Rittenhouse.
little switcheroo there, didn't he?
Yeah. Okay.
You want
So,
talking about Rittenhouse.
Look, I think that this whole thing, the Second Amendment, I got a right to bring weapons. Everybody's going to bring weapons, and we're all going to kill each other. I think it's a disastrous idea. And anyone who, right wing or left wing, and by the way, Stephen, we've fought back against any kind of violence, including from our side. Even things like that Riley Gaines, I think, the swimmer, she goes and gives a speech at some college, and then the leftists surround the room that she's in and won't let her out, and she's afraid for her safety. Cops won't let her out because they're afraid for her safety. What are you guys doing? To be a progressive is to believe in nonviolence.
Sure.
We don't do those thug tactics, okay?
Sure, but I will say your guys' coverage of the Michael Reinhold guy was a lot different.
You hear that Cenk just dog whistled?
he said thug, yeah.
He said the T word. Oh
He
my
did.
god.
Major dog whistle there.
Ooh, Cenk.
And I think that was a shooting that was clearly in the wrong. He was stalking a dude for hours, chased him across the street and shot him in the face and then ran away. And they gave interviews to Vice. And you guys were comparing that to like, oh, well, if Rittenhouse could kill the one guy that was chasing him, this guy's killing should have been just as supported. I don't know. Like when you build up this world of like alternative fact reporting over and over and over and over and over again, like it's not surprising to me that after a while you've got people on the right and left that just live in totally different worlds. So people on the left are like, of course we're going to go riot and burn down cities. Hundreds or thousands of people every year are getting indiscriminately killed by the cops. And then people on the right are like, I don't know why you guys are burning down anything. We lived in a totally different fact world where all of your stuff is misreported, where people like, and then like even like, like the Rittenhouse killings are being compared to like Breonna Taylor, which is actually a truly tragic case where a woman died for no reasons, where at best the cops were serving a not great warrant, and at worst they shouldn't have even been there. And you've got people comparing like Breonna Taylor and Philando Castile, the black guy who got shot and killed in his car because the cops smelled weed, are comparing this to like the Rittenhouse killings and stuff. And it's like, geez, when all of it gets thrown together, it feels like it's easy to take none of it seriously, and that's the kind of thing that's frustrating to me.
All right, I hear you, but I again, we don't agree, and I think that this fetish of guns drives way more violence. It's an empirical fact. The more guns we have, the more homicides there are, the more suicides there are, the more tension we have in the country, the more we distrust each other, the more fearful we are, and the more we strike out against one another and shoot and kill. And what we're trying to do on the Young Turks is to end all that stuff. The right wing, they'll never listen. But for the left wing, we try super hard to make sure that there are no riots, there's no violence, there's no threats. That's not what Martin Luther King stood for, or Nelson Mandela, or Mahatma Gandhi, and we remind our audience of that day in and day out. We probably do it more than any other show.
Okay.
Hi, you just listened to a clip from the Sitch and Adams show. If you like what you heard, you can listen to our live show right here on this channel on Sunday, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And if you want, you can super chat us. We read $20 and up super chats on the show and then do a follow-up stream on the following Tuesday where we read the rest of the unread super chats and interact with fans of the show. Subscribe to this channel right here to listen to the live show or to listen to more of our awesome clips.